Shelby, and I'm going to teach you how to make a one pan recipe. So I have a couple of things, you'll be getting a couple of things, and my things may look a little different from yours, but that's totally okay, because the beauty of cooking is that what I make for me, you don't have to make for you, and you can be inspired by what I do without following it exactly. So on my cutting board today, I have some chicken that I marinated, and I used one of the marinade recipes. It was the apple honey one. I have a leek because the leeks are in season right now and I'm really excited about them. I have some Brussels sprouts, and I have 2 sweet potatoes. You can make this with regular potatoes. I just happen to have sweet potatoes on hand and didn't want to have to run to the store. So the first thing I'm going to do is, in fact, wash all of my fruits and vegetables, and then we will be back. Now, what may be a little interesting about this is that I am actually going to use one of the marinades that we got in our May Mather box to marinate my vegetables. And I've said this once, I've said it 100 times, you can in fact use marinades to cook vegetables. You can use them to cook whatever protein type you like. Pretty much the world is your oyster. So I want to make sure that I'm cutting my leeks into nice little chunks. And leeks are just like an onion if you've never had one before. And they're in the onion family. They're really mild. A lot of times people just make soup with them, so I wanted to do something a little different with my leeks and try to marinate them and roast them. I've heard that they're really great that way. So I just cut them up into little bits, and I'm going to put that on my sheet. And if I was not cooking this right away, I would even just throw them kind of all in one big container and let everything marinate. Now I'm going to take my Brussels sprouts and I'm going to pick through any that don't look great, these leaves. I'm going to pull them off. And I have a compost bin, so I'm just going to throw mine in the compost. But the trash works just as well. And then what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're using your claw and just cut them into halves. You can also cut them into fourths depending on what size that you want them. If you don't like the little firm part at the end, you can cut that off too. But I think halves is like the perfect size. And then I'm also going to just continue to throw those on my sheet pan. So I made a decision, which is totally fine. And I decided that I wanted to marinate all of my vegetables very similarly to the way that I'm marinating my chicken right now. So I'm going to pour a marinade on top of all of my vegetables, but I'm going to prep them by putting them all in one big container first. And again, that's the beauty about cooking. That allows me to kind of take a step back and to be able to do some other things during my day while it's waiting and marinating, because the best part about marinades is that they can sit and be used for as long as you want them to be. And in this instance, if my potatoes don't end up on my sheet pan, I'll just throw them on another pan. It's not a big deal. But I decided if I'm going to make a sheet pan, I want to do all of it kind of at once. And that means also prepping and cooking all at once. So I'm going to let these sit, and I have the honey garlic marinade sitting right next to me right now. I added a couple extra things to mine because, again, beauty of cooking. I added a little bit of gochujang, which is a red pepper paste. It's a Korean red pepper paste. I absolutely adore it. And then I had a half of an orange that I wanted to add in as well. So my chicken is marinated in a very similar sauce with some balsamic and some orange. So all of those should tie together really nicely. And if I have extra, or in this case, let's say you have picky eaters in your family, I do too. It's really easy to make something like this for yourself. So I know that there's a lot of mental load in making multiple meals for people. My fiance is willing to try something once and then he's like, I'm good to go. But in that case, if I make 4 chicken breasts, then I have 2 extra meals that I've made from my sheet pan. So that's kind of how doing all of this one pan, one pot works, is that it makes it easy and you really only have to cook one time instead of cooking everything separately. And so in that, I want to talk a little bit about reheating as I continue to chop Brussels sprouts. You can reheat most foods any way that you like, unless there is some reason it shouldn't go in the microwave, or if you care a lot about its like textural integrity. I'm thinking a lot about eggs here. I say microwave is always a great place to do it. But if you don't like your microwave, reheating in the air fryer works just as well. In this case, I would probably reheat it on a lower temperature than what you cooked it. So most sheet pans are somewhere between 400, 425. And so I would probably reheat on like 350, 375 until it's warm enough, or it's, you know, about the heat that you want it to be. And of course, you can always use the microwave if you'd like. I have to say, I am a microwave person. I love my microwave, but I do a lot in my air fryer as well. You can also freeze meals, which I know some people don't like to freeze after they've cooked everything, but it's totally okay and it's totally food safe as long as, you know, you make sure that it gets into the freezer relatively immediately, that you're not just letting it sit in the fridge for 3 days and then throwing it in the freezer. Great. So I have all of our chopped vegetables here, and I am going to put a marinade on it. Okay, so I'm starting with a little bit of olive oil because I like olive oil to marinate all of my stuff. And if you need a particular measurement for that, always go for about a tablespoon. I just like to do it to make sure everything's coated. My marinade should have olive oil in it, but if it doesn't, let's just make sure, you know, everything has a nice coating to it and we're not crazy. If you don't like to get your hands in mixing like this, that's okay. You can use a cooking instrument. I like my 2 cooking instruments, usually my hands. So I'm just doing a final stir here of my marinade to try to get some of the goopier things I have immersed. And I'm just gonna pour that directly on to my vegetables here. And this right here is, again, my gochujang, or my red pepper paste. I like it a lot. Even if it doesn't fully break down, that's totally okay. And I just want to make sure everything here gets a nice coating. Everything looks like it's going to be coated really nicely. And there's a little bit at the bottom, so it will soak in. And again, this will slowly, as you can see as I'm rubbing it, it'll slowly dissolve as well. So I'm just going to tuck it some under my vegetables. It's the end of my container of gochujang. I need to go get more. And I'm going to cover this and then put it in the fridge until we're ready to do our one sheet. While I'm here, I'm going to finish up my prep, and this is really, really great. I, again, have sweet potatoes. These are Japanese sweet potatoes. They're absolutely positively my favorite sweet potato. They're white on the inside. I think as they roast, they just become really good and moist, and I'm just going to do them. I'll usually roast them whole if I'm just making them for myself, but I am going to kind of make them into rounds today. And the goal, I don't try to make things like perfect every single time, but you do want a similar thickness so that each one of these have a similar cook time. Obviously, that's going to change depending on, you know, what size our ring is, but we really do want that thickness to be around the same so that we can have cook times be relatively similar, I'd say. I know in this case I used my leeks and I used my Brussels sprouts, but I also had some asparagus as well that I could have used. Pretty much anything would go with what we're making. Any protein, any starch, any carb, really. So in my case, again, because I had these sweet potatoes on hand, that's what I used. But if not, I would have just done a regular baking potato or a gold potato, whichever. Or if you're not really interested in potatoes, this would also be really good over a bed of rice or quinoa. Pretty much the beauty of something like this is that it's simple and easy and you could do a lot with it. Also, if you're not feeling a marinade, you can always add a sauce. And I'm looking here and I know that I will probably have to cook my sweet potatoes on another tray. So let me go get that. So I have my 2 trays and my extra leftover sweet potato here. And when it comes time to bake, I'm going to put everything on here, show you guys how to put it in the oven. Okay, it is now dinner time and I just put the veggies in the oven at 400 degrees and I'm about to put my chicken in the oven as well. I'm gonna let it cook until it reaches an internal temperature of about 165. That's about 20 minutes. But if my vegetables get a little too brown for me, I'll pull them out early or vice versa. If the chicken gets done and the vegetables aren't, I'll just let them sit in and cook. Okay, so it's been about 30 minutes. I took out my chicken before I took out my vegetables here, but they are all roasted and I started to plate. So between this and one other pan, I have about 4 meals here, which is insane and also really great for somebody who doesn't like to cook consistently throughout the week. Sue me. But this is also great because we have a carb, a protein, and a starch along with our fiber from the Brussels sprouts and the apple marinade. So we are doing great on all of the fronts here and I can't wait to dig in. It's dinner time, so I hope you enjoy this as much as I do, and I'll see you next time.